I'm Keith Howard, and welcome to this brief featurette for the DVD Lucy Meets Superman. First, I want to thank you so much for your generous donation. We really hope that you enjoy what you've received. This DVD is made up of the skit that was performed this year for the Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois. We used 3 different camera sources, and Jamie Kelly has painstakingly edited it so that you will see the skit from multiple angles, very similar to the filming style that was done in the original series of I Love Lucy, where you get to see it in multiple angles. So thank you, Jamie, for all your hard work. Well, we wanted to add this bonus so that you could get a feel for why we even did this skit. As many of you know, those of you who are regulars to Metropolis each year, there's always a skit or two that is performed for the spectators, those who attend the celebration, and they're very good. They're a lot of fun, and a lot of work is put into those. I wanted to do something that was a little bigger. Last year, on the Facebook page, the Super Friends of Metropolis, somebody had posted a picture of the Superman on the I Love Lucy episode. It was a very familiar picture with Lucy out on the ledge at the end and George standing out there. Just a lot of fun to look at that. And all those memories of that very funny episode come back to your mind. And somebody had said, what a great skit that would make at next year's celebration. Well, I jumped on that idea. I thought the same thing. What a great idea for a skit. But I realized that an episode of I Love Lucy that is so well known, people have that etched in their mind. They know that apartment. They remember that ledge. They know the details. And so I knew that I had to put together something that was big. I needed Hollywood-sized sets and props and costumes if we were going to do this justice. The one thing that kept coming back to my mind that I insisted on from the beginning was it had to be done in black and white. I mean, it was a black and white episode. Again, those images are etched into the minds of everybody who's ever seen it, dozens of times, which many of us have. I talked to Carla over at the Metro Chamber and was told that the stage there at the tent was about the best they were going to be able to do this year. So somebody had suggested talking to Jim Hambrick, because every year on Saturday night, Jim has the annual auction and George Awards presentation over at the Baymont Inn. And the Baymont has a theater inside where there's a full stage with a functional curtain that opens and closes. It was at least the venue that we were going to be looking for in order to have multiple set changes and other elements to make this work right. So I called Jim. I pitched the idea to Jim over the phone, and quickly Jim was on board. He loved that episode. Who doesn't? But he didn't know me very well. Until a couple years ago, nobody in Metropolis knew me. Like I said, I was there in 2001, but just as a spectator and somebody who was there as an attendee. However, in 2010, I showed up for the costume contest. I didn't win, but I got a lot of recognition for my homemade George Reeves costume. There's a lot of George Reeves lovers out there, and I'm one of them. And so people started to take notice of me. And then in the following year, I came back and I won my category as Best Superman. What an honor. What a wonderful opportunity and experience that was. Again, though, Jim still needed to know if this is going to be done in conjunction with his event, it had to be done right. He insisted on it. Well, I knew who I wanted to play the part of Lucy, Tiffany Cressy. She won as Best Supergirl in her category the same year I won as Best Superman, and we became close friends through Facebook. Well, I called Tiffany and asked her, and she agreed. And I then asked her, would she mind going to Metropolis with me when I went to talk to Jim Hambrick? She also agreed to that. I knew I needed a pretty face to help get me in the door. So we went. Now, we met with Jim and quickly went over to the Baymont to look at their stage so I could get a feel for what we were working with. Then Jim wanted to know what I had to offer. What did I have in mind? What could I bring to the table? Well, he was probably expecting somebody to pull out some blueprints or some artist's rendering of what my ideas were, maybe a storyboarding telling of how we would pull this off. Instead, I showed up with a plastic shop and save bag full of Legos. That's right. I had a bag of Legos, and in it was a pre-built wall that looked like the shape of the outer wall as it would be created for our set piece. It was L-shaped, so big by so tall by so wide, had a little space there for a window. And I also brought some Lego figures, so I could put a couple of them behind the window on one side and a couple of them out in front that would simulate the roles of the cast members. Well, we all got a good laugh out of that. But in the end, Jim warmed up quite a bit, loved the idea. In fact, he even spoke about doing this annually, doing some form of presentation, entertainment for the people who come from all over the country to enjoy the Superman celebration. And so needless to say, it sounded like we had made an impression. If you ask Jim today, he'll probably tell you that's the first and only pitch he's ever gotten by somebody using Legos. Anyway, so we were off and running. We had the green light to do it in conjunction with Jim's annual auction at George Award. Now I needed to start putting together the set. That was very important. Again, all this had to be done in black and white. So I contacted my brother, who is a carpenter, and asked him if he could help me put together this set. I scoured the internet and also the episode on DVD, and I came up with a few photos to describe to my brother exactly what I was looking for. The two of us put together the design of the set. The walls were 8 foot high. The back wall was 16 foot, and then the tip-out side wall was 8 foot, 10 foot, something like that, off the other side. It was a very big, massive wall. And it needed to have a window cut in it, and as you can see here, here's a picture of my brother Michael standing in front of the set that we designed together and he constructed. This is a prefabbed set that had to break down into smaller and more manageable pieces so that I could get it from where I lived here in the St. Louis area to Metropolis. And there it is disassembled and in a stack up against the wall. That's some of it. We had to have two set pieces. We had to have the outer wall. We also had to have an inner wall. And that had to be on wheels so that at some point during the skit, we could fade to black and move the inner apartment set piece out of the way, revealing the outer wall that sat behind it. So my brother had a big job to do, and he did a fantastic job. But I had to have it painted. So I called a friend of mine, Brent Alexander. He is an artist by profession. He owns a company called Alexander Artworks. And I asked Brent, do you think you'd be willing to at least take a look at what I'm trying to do here? It's just shades of gray and black and white, so there's no fancy coloring. But do you think you could help me create the inner apartment of the I Love Lucy show as well as the outer wall where they would be standing out on the ledge? And he said, sure, I'll take a look at it. Well, Brent, he agreed. Here's a picture of Brent now standing in front of the wall as he's about to paint. As you can see on his ladder, that is his logo for his company, Alexander Artworks. If you ever need any paintings, murals, or any kind of professional work like that, please call Brent. He's on the internet, Alexander Artworks. Brent and I spent 2 weekends painting these set pieces. First week we did the inside the apartment set piece, and then the following week we did the outer ledge. The inside the set, if you watch the episode of Lucy, you'll see that in the middle, where there's the window and the piano, it seems farther away than the outer edges seem closer to the audience. It actually kind of had a semicircular shape to the room. We were not going to build a set. We hadn't built a set like that, but we wanted to create that look, and Brent was the guy, just the guy, to do that. He created a very three-dimensional element there, so it looked as though the wall had a recessed area back by the window, and that the kitchen area off to the side and the other wall across adjacent from it looked a little closer to the viewer. He also did a lot of shading and shadowing, and really did a fantastic job making the inside the apartment match what you see when you watch the episode. And then the next week, we had to do the same thing for the outer wall. Now, in my mind, it was very simple. Those concrete blocks were just going to be a bunch of lines separating blocks. But Brent knows better than that. He knew that you couldn't just make a checkerboard of gray blocks up there. You had to have the appropriate shading and highlighting so that it would create a three-dimensional look to those blocks. And he taught me how. So I did some painting of those blocks, and Brent did all the artwork around the window trim so that it would have a lot of the shading that was important to make that look right as well. And as you can see, Brent did a fantastic job. Then I knew I had to make a piano, because one of the key aspects of the skit, and one of the funnier scenes, is when Ricky is yelling through the window at Lucy out on the ledge, and the piano is in the way, and Superman has to come over, and he moves the piano with ease, and he himself climbs out on the ledge and rescues Lucy. And so I had the task of creating a piano, something that looked similar to the one as you see on the episode, and it had to be lightweight, it had to be on wheels so that I could move it. A little trim work, a little something that makes it look like I've got keys up there and foot pedals. I know it's a little shoddy work. It's not my specialty, but it sold. It looked okay on stage, and in the skit it does get quite a chuckle. I was very proud of that.